What's new in CloudBees CI 2.492.3.5? On April 2nd, 2025, CloudBees CI 2.492.3.5 was released. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the changes that occurred within that release. Also on April 2nd, 2025, Jenkins LTS 2.492.3 was released. On April 3rd, I did a video with Mark Waite talking about all the changes in that release. If you'd like more information about that, the link to that video is down in the description. If you've never taken a look at the release notes for CloudBees CI before, let me show you how to get there. We're going to start at docs.cloudbees.com. Under the Documentation tab, we're going to go down to CloudBees CI. And then under the Documentation dropdown, we're going to select Release Notes. And here we're on the home page for all of the release notes for CloudBees CI. Now I want to go ahead and call out this important section. If you skip versions when you upgrade, refer to previous versions of the release notes for any known issues or upgrade notes. What does that mean? Well, again, the current release is 2.492.3.5. Let's say that we're upgrading from an earlier version, such as 2.479.3.2. I would need to go through and check the release notes for 492.1.3, 492.2.2, 2.3, as well as all the notes for 3.5 to make sure that I've covered everything that I need to know for my upgrade from the older version to the newer version. As a CloudBees CI client, we recommend an assisted update to help make the update process easier. There is a link down in the description about how to get help with an assisted update. Now, just taking a look at this landing page, what we're going to see for 492.3.5 is there are three big red boxes. Now, in a moment, we'll take a look at what those three boxes mean once we get into the detailed notes. We're going to take a look first at the release notes for traditional platforms, and then we'll take a look at what's different for modern cloud platforms. So if we take a look at the release notes here, we can see that at the top, this release was classified as a security release. So if we were to take a look at the security advisory, what we're going to see here is there are a number of security items for both the core of CloudBees CI as well as some of the plugins provided by CloudBees. So if we take a look here, we have a path traversal vulnerability in the CloudBees Update Center plugin. We also have a redos vulnerability in the Managed Master Hibernation Monitor. And we also had another issue within the CloudBees Backup plugin. Now within the core of CloudBees CI, we had a couple of missing permission checks. And then along with that, there were a number of other plugins that also had security vulnerabilities. Take the time and read through the security advisory to understand how it applies to your environment. So now if we go ahead and go back into our release notes, first off, we see that there were some upgrade notes for additions of plugins to the CloudBees Assurance Program, or CAP. If we scroll down there, we can see there were no new features for CloudBees CI for traditional platforms, but remember that once we go over to modern cloud platforms. Under feature enhancements, right here at the very top, the synchronous resume not supported exception error now includes the name of the step that failed. If there was a pipeline that failed running and can't resume after a controller restart, you would see this error. However, that didn't really help you out a whole lot because, okay, what was the problem? Well, now it logs the failing step within the pipeline. So you'll be able to figure out which step it was that ran, and it also gives you the suggestion to either use retry or retries, depending on whether you're using a scripted pipeline or declarative pipelines. Also inside of feature enhancements, there were numerous high availability feature enhancements, as well as a number of CloudBees Pipeline Explorer enhancements. If we go ahead and go down into the resolved section, we'll see here, check license info asynchronously for controller configuration changes. Used to, when you make these changes, the license check would happen synchronously, which could take some time and cause some blocking operations. Well, now that's being done async, the responsiveness is going to be much better. Also here, if you're using configuration as code or cask, the plugin's YAML file incorrectly handled file protocol URLs. It handled file with double slash, including the slash, but it didn't handle just the very basic single slash. So now, whether you go triple slash or single slash, everything's going to work out okay. There were also numerous high availability fixes, as well as CloudBees Pipeline Explorer fixes within this release. Let's go ahead and go back and take a look at our release notes for modern cloud platforms. Now, in this case, we still see the security advisory. It applies to modern just as it did to traditional. But now we see our first red box. Now, in this case, this only applies if you are running CloudBees CI for modern cloud platforms in FIPS mode. If you're not running in FIPS mode, this does not apply to you at all. Let's go ahead and scroll down to upgrade notes. Two big key items here. Right now, the minimum supported version of Kubernetes is 1.28. So support for 127 and below have been dropped completely for running CloudBees CI on modern cloud platforms. That applies to running this release or later. So if you're running the previous version of 2.492.2, whichever version you were running, you're still good on 127. But as soon as you upgrade to 3.5 this release, you've got to make sure that Kubernetes is also running on 1.28 or higher. Also, if you've been running the CloudBees SDA product, which is actually just a wrapper around CloudBees CI and CloudBees CDRO. If you're running that on modern, there was a single Helm chart that would take care of installing everything for you, including a couple of other things. With this release, this Helm chart has now been deprecated. Let's go ahead and scroll down to the next section. What we'll see here with new features, CloudBees CI on modern cloud platforms now supports Kubernetes 1.32 as well as Red Hat OpenShift 4.18. Now, just like we were talking about with 1.27 being dropped, with this version, we can run from 128 all the way through to 1.32. So whichever version of Kubernetes you need to run within your environment, as long as you're within 1.28 to 1.32, you're going to be good to go with this version of CloudBees CI. If we were to compare feature enhancements for traditional and modern cloud platforms, they're exactly the same. But once we get down to resolved issues, there are two items I want to call out. The FS group change policy set by default to on root mismatch for managed controller provisions. So now they are now created by default with FS group change policy set to on root mismatch. This change, the key part to this, prevents unnecessary file ownership changes, improving startup time. So that's a great thing for when you're starting up the controller. The last one that I want to call out is at the bottom of the list. If we take a look at this, what we're going to see is shared cloud UIs no longer supports renaming. In the past, you could rename a shared cloud. Well, actually you couldn't. So that has now been fixed to only allow reading of that value and not actually changing the value of your shared cloud. If you have any questions or comments, you can reach out to us on X at CloudBees. If this video was helpful to you, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to CloudBees TV yet, why not? Take a moment, click on that subscribe button, and ring that bell, and you'll be notified anytime there's new content available on CloudBees TV. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.